wonderful guy. Gotten to know him a little bit through this and through the men's group at church. And so, Nathan, the floor is yours. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. And truly, Jay and Scott, I guess I spoke to this group about a year ago, and I think we had maybe just joined or were starting to think about joining BUMC. And yeah, fortunately, we joined and gotten really plugged in. But I think this is such a cool ministry that we have. So really kudos to especially you for your leadership here. Yeah, so here's what I'd like to do. I don't have a deck for us to walk through. I really just want us to have some conversations. So what I thought I would do is kind of walk through a little bit of the lay of the land as it relates to the market as I see it through my lens of being an economic developer. I've got some tips that I can offer up to you in terms of getting some inside baseball on who's hiring and at what clip, and so we can talk about that. And then really, I want to get pretty quickly to questions. What do you want to know more about? And get specific with me, right? Like I'm specifically looking for X thing. Who would you think about looking at? The beauty of this market, just as an overall statement, and I know you all know this, I mean, we've got a lot of great employers here. And so we fortunately get to spend a lot of time with them in the work that I get to do on our behalf. And so I can kind of help you maybe kind of weed through some of the opportunities. So just to kind of level set about, so what does the chamber do and what do I do? So you have probably seen in a lot of communities that chambers are involved with ribbon cuttings. We do a lot of those. Last year we had 90 of those. That's a great indicator that you're in a healthy market. You're doing 90 ribbon cuttings. But our organization is a little bit unique in that we are both the Chamber of Commerce and the Office of Economic Development. And so in a lot of communities, economic development is a function of the county or the city. And depending on where they are, they might do a lot of different things. We are one entity. So we have the chamber side, and it's strong with 1,300 members. It's primarily a small business focused group. We got a lot of opportunities for gathering, one of which I made a note to mention to you before I end today that I think could be helpful for you as you're thinking about the next thing. But the economic development work is what I lead. And so what that means essentially is we are engaged on behalf of the county in all new business expansion and relocation projects. So when a company raises their hand, like I'll use In-N-Out as an example, because that's one that we were just continually riding that wave. Nothing has, y'all, I knew that people would get excited. We are still talking about In-N-Out, and it's been well over a year. And I'm fine to do it, but it's kind of nuts in a great way. So a company like In-N-Out raises their hand and says, hey, we're trying to look for the optimal place to build an Eastern District Territory office, or whatever they called it. And why would we pick Williamson County over Dallas or Raleigh or Miami or whatever? So it's our job to come alongside them and talk about the highly educated workforce that we have here. And we'll say, hey, 60% of Williamson County residents have at least a bachelor's degree. Oh, that's cool. And then we talk about quality schools, and we talk about all the other things that make this a great destination and a great place to live. And then hopefully they make the good decision to establish operations here. And then we walk with them from start to finish. So you're building a building or you're moving into an existing building. We participate in that. Hiring. All right. So I love bringing talent to the front door of our employers. And I'm always really trying to find these opportunities to say, hey, here's Bob, and he's really interested in you, and he's a great get. So we do a lot of that work. Expansion work. So there's a lot of companies here, this won't surprise you, that are growing at a pretty healthy clip. And so we'll sit with them and we'll connect them with the state and TVA and help get them some resources to grow, ultimately in the spirit of creating great high-paying jobs for us. We do a lot of work around entrepreneurship. So ensuring that the environment here is one that a lot of folks are trying to build out their own businesses. And so we actually run an incubator in downtown Franklin. So if you end up finding yourself in a space where you're going to start your own thing, please call me. We've got space that we rent at, I think it's like $500 a month. And we've got folks that are starting up businesses, and we support them. We bring a lot of resources around them in hopes that they will then ultimately graduate out to a new facility, and they'll hire some more Williamson County and Middle Tennesseans, Williamson County residents and Middle Tennesseans. So we're really interested in that work. A lot of work around workforce development. So for us, that means if we go to an employer saying, hey, we really are going to have a need for whatever, how do we address that need? Primarily for us, that is going and working with public schools, WCS and FSD. We have a really cool program that you should just know about it's called the Entrepreneurship and Innovation Center, the EIC. And that's a program that WCS runs. You just got a lot of really cool students. They're doing a lot of really neat work. They're starting businesses and they're launching out of the EIC. We will sit with them and say, how do we work on programming and make sure that, again, we're building up this pipeline so that these students walk out of high school. And if they pursue secondary education, then hopefully they'll come back and contribute to our economy. And then finally, regional collaboration. So one of the statistics that I think is just good for you to know, and I'm really proud of, there are 95 counties in the state of Tennessee, 95 counties. At least 10 people in every single one of those counties connects their paycheck back to a Williamson County-based company. So what we do here matters for us and for the region, but it's really from one end to the other. And that's a tremendous responsibility that we take very seriously. And so growing our economy is important, but also we understand the reach. I will also tell you, again, thinking about growth here, is everybody familiar with Inc. 5000? If I say Inc. 5000, so Inc. magazine every year, they rank the 5,000 fastest growing companies based on revenue. And they do it over a 3-year look, okay? Of Tennessee's Inc. 5,000 companies, 25% are based in Williamson County. So one tip that I'd offer you is that if you're interested in seeing who's growing, go to Inc. 5000, go to the website, and you can search it by state, and you can search it by region. And you can go through there. The number 2 fastest growing company in the country last year is in Brentwood, Monogram Health. So if you, and now look, I would say some of those numbers are a little skewed. Okay, so if you go from 1 employee to 200, you know, it's like growth of like 200,000%. Okay, so you kind of got to put it through a filter and kind of, you know, give it a good look. But point is that's a great resource that I don't think a lot of people lean into in terms of thinking about who's growing. So that's our work. So again, when we get to the Q&A time or the discussion time, I really, any employer that you have interest in, I think we may have some insight into. So when I sit with groups or folks are like, hey, I'm thinking about moving to Williamson County, or I'm in the area already, and where would you work? So one of the beauties and one of the real honors of our work is we get to sit with leaders. And anymore, I'm really focused on like who's leading really well. So for me, it's like what's the work secondary? Who's really doing cool work in regard to leadership? So a couple companies that I'm really just thrilled they're here. Not to say that we don't love all of our companies, but these ones in particular. So one I would look at for a couple of reasons for you all is Vaco. So Vaco's based in Brentwood. They do staffing. They primarily focus on tech. I think Vaco as a company, VACO, I think Vaco as a company just has great leadership. They have a beautiful space over here at Virginia Springs. So they're in a brand new office. I like all the folks at Vaco. And look, candidly, like, again, we love everybody, but like the Vaco leadership is special. But for you as a job seeker potentially, or a pivoter, lean into Vaco services because they're in the business of placing people, executives, and again, primarily tech. So I like Vaco a lot. Also really like Tractor Supply. Their corporate culture, I think, is legit. I think Hal Lawton, their CEO, he's just remarkably approachable. And so that, from a culture standpoint, that moves down, right, from your CEO. And so if I were in the market, I'd be looking hard at Tractor. Now, I'll tell you what I've heard about the Tractor experience is that their, from application to offer, is stringent. It can take a while. So if you do pursue something there and it starts to feel like, oh my gosh, this is bogged down, that sounds like that's kind of how it goes. The other company that I really like over there, which is it's literally a neighbor of Vaco, is Core Civic. And so you may have heard about Core Civic or read about them. So what they do is they basically run privatized prisons. Damon Heiniger is their CEO there, and he's a good dude. He's been there for 30 years. So he was first generation college student, started as a corrections officer, has grown up in the company. In terms of caring about their people and coalescing around staff, I've just found Core Civic to be, they're really, really good at that. And they're growing at a very healthy clip. Their stock has done well. There'll be some hires there for sure. So I would look at them. In and out, so they're going to be hiring a lot of people. That's a long-term play. So the retail will start opening at the end of 25. The office itself won't open until 26. But they are posting Franklin jobs. And so I get on their website and they're going to be hiring. So that office in Franklin is going to, it's going to be headquarters like. They're not calling it the headquarters, but you're going to have senior staff that are there. You're going to have a little bit of everything. So regardless, I think, of whatever work you're in and out's going to have some need there. And just a word on kind of how it works when a company moves to town and they make these job commitments. So you'll see these announcements. You'll see in and out's moving, and they're going to create 275 new jobs. And the average wages are whatever they were. I think they were right around 100,000. So what they've done is they've made an agreement with the state. And in exchange for financial support, they've said, we're committed to making this many hires. These are not relocations. These are new hires. So when you see these announcements, and this is for all over the region, pay attention to that number. Typically, they have 5 years to hit that number. So they're expedited. That hiring process is going to be expedited. Yeah, a little pro tip. If you go to, and I don't know the website right offhand, but if you'll Google TNECD, so it's Tennessee Economic and Community Development. So it's probably tnecd.tn.gov, but Google it. You can go down to the bottom and search press releases. And if you'll go down there and you can Nashville or Williamson County or whatever, it will pull up all the press releases from announcements. So anytime the state incentivizes a project, and they're incentivizing a project because they're creating great jobs, okay? Anytime the state incentivizes a project, they do a press release. And so if I'm you, I'm going back 3 to 4 years now in time and looking at where was there an announcement? And then you can start kind of figuring out, oh, well, they're kind of leaning up against this 5-year time period. And now all of a sudden you probably have a pretty good prospect in a company because the clock's ticking. Because if they don't hit these numbers, they'll lose these resources. So there could be clawbacks or a lot of ways the state gets the money back. But I don't think enough people spend time on those press releases, and they're just right there, and you can sort them. So I mentioned In and Out. Again, that's going to be a 2026 thing. Another company that I really like, it's actually a nonprofit, Educational Media Foundation, otherwise known as K-Love. So K-Love operates under, it's Educational Media Foundation is the nonprofit, but it's K-Love and Air One. They recently opened up their new HQ. This is South Franklin, right next to Ramsey. Right down the road from Ramsey. So it's Ramsey, Etna, and K-Love. I really like what K-Love's doing there. It's a cool culture. The building is incredible. I think they're 100% in office, which is a little different because I think the norm down here in Williamson County specifically is about 3 days in the office. I think K-Love's fully in the office, but I like the leadership there. It's a great mission. Again, depending on what you're looking at, but they're looking at, they've got salespeople, they've got plenty of tech folks, right? So that'd be one that I put on my radar. They were not incentivized by the state, so they're not necessarily on a timeline like some of the others are, but one I'd look at. Financial institutions, we spend a lot of time with all banks. Two that I'm particularly hot on, again, because of the leadership there. I really like First Bank. The gentleman that runs the president of Williamson County, his name is Will Powell. He and I had conversations about like, man, there's just not enough folks coming up to do commercial banking. So if that were of interest to you, I think First Bank would be interesting. The other one is Pinnacle. They're massive. They've been around a long time. The leadership down here, there's a gentleman here that I really like and we work a lot with. And I think from a culture standpoint, I think Pinnacle's pretty great. And the other one finally is Mitsubishi. Mitsubishi did get a state incentive. It's been I think we actually extended it by a year, but they were working on a 5-year clock. So you go look at the press release and it will tell you, and I don't remember exactly how many jobs and what the average salaries were, but it gives you a sense. So you don't have to fly blind on this, I guess is the point. You can know like, hey, average salaries are going to be, and if they're in Williamson County, typically they're going to be 6-figure average salaries, and it'll give you a sense of what specifically they're hiring and how many. So you've got the TNECD website. You've got, I'm so glad that LinkedIn was on there. I feel like anymore, so many of these employers will get out in front on LinkedIn even before it hits the HR page. And then I mentioned Vaco. I think depending on what you're looking for, I think they could be of service to you. I don't spend a ton of time with other headhunters, so I can't really speak to who else is doing that work in the community. But Vaco most certainly is. So yes, please. That's a quick rundown. I really want to get into specific question time.
Yes.
But that's
Awesome.
a real brief overview.
Loved what you had to say. Question for Vaco. Never engaged with a headhunting business organization before. What can you expect when you reach out to them? I mean, is this something that we pay for, or are they incentivized just to help us?
They're getting paid by a client to find talent, and I'm pretty sure there's a drop down on their website for seekers.
Okay, cool.
So I think it's as simple. I mean, I candidly have not gone through the process either with Vaco, but the way I understand it is that they have contracted with XYZ Inc. to go out and help basically.
Now, is that regionally they're sourcing jobs, or
they're across Vaco's across the country.
Okay, yeah,
they're all over.
But if you told them, hey, just look here, they could do that.
100%. And I think part of the intake would be that.
Gotcha.
Is my understanding, but I think there's a section around the website.
Perfect.
That asks, if you're a job seeker, click here.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But I want to go right into what specifically are you hunting up? I'd love to just give. I'm happy to get into.
I'm happy to share it since I'm holding
Let's
it.
go.
Yeah. Awesome. Well,
do it.
The name's Dan. Hi, everyone. Currently at Vanderbilt doing some community innovation work.
Yep.
I've been in the nonprofit entrepreneurship, small business development space for 12 years. And I kind of want out of the nonprofit world. It's just time.
Mm-hmm.
Spread my wings and fly. So with the skill set of I've always been this forward-facing person and really just trying to see what biz development is out there in the corporate side. Or honestly, everyone my entire life told me, why aren't you doing sales? So considering that, but that's kind of like not as mission critical for me just yet.
Yeah.
But really just love getting behind a good mission, but can talk my way into anything.
Yeah.
So
I mean, look, everybody's looking for a gret sales guy, right?
I know.
And my background was in fundraising too. Same deal. Like everybody needs a good fundraiser.
Yeah.
I coached up a buddy recently who went through transition and he wanted to do sales, just straight up. And so what he did, he leaned in heavy on LinkedIn. I told him from a sales standpoint, like there are a handful of companies down in Franklin that I really like one of which is Gutter Glove.
Okay.
I mean, look, it is what it is. They are selling covers that go over your gutters.
I figured.
To keep leaves out.
Yep.
But I'm gonna tell you from a culture standpoint, and again, I know I keep saying this, but everyone. Right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So like that's one that they're growing pretty well. Like look at Gutter Glove and see what they have. They're in our building. The leadership there is super cool. It's very stable. We talked about, so you've done stuff with Launch Tennessee.
Yep.
So Launch Tennessee is in the business of helping launch growing businesses,
Yeah.
right? And investing in growing businesses. They get some resources from the state to help with that. The National Entrepreneurship Center.
Yep.
I think it'd be interesting to kind of kick around those things. But no, I mean, there are so many folks. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know.
Yeah.
But
what are your thoughts on Schneider Electric?
I like Schneider fine.
Yeah.
I mean, they're great partners. I don't really spend a ton of time over there, but those that I know that are there really like it a lot. They're in a great building. I mean, so a lot of employers that we sit with, we're talking about flight to quality in terms of where they are for the office, because they're really focused on getting into spaces where they can attract people back to the office. So like I office at McEwen Northside, where there's a ton of retail down below. And so when I say, flight to quality and the building, so they're in a great spot because they're right on the other side of McEwen. There's a lot of development that's to be had around that area. So in terms of if you're going to have to go to the office, I think Schneider would be a good place to be, is ultimately what I'm saying. They're not on an island.
Yeah.
They're well positioned, I think, to attract some more folks. But I like Schneider well.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to hog the mic.
Yeah. Questions? Any questions from our Zoom friends?
Hey Nathan, I was curious to know if you had any, and I'll turn my camera on, but you may not see me, it's a little dark. Curious to know about networking. So the obvious, of course, is LinkedIn, but since we are in the environment of back to office, it seems as if live networking might be something that, we job seekers should incorporate into our strategy. And I'd be curious to know what you think about that and if there are any recommendations for networking events where we can be in the room with some of these potential employers or otherwise.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. So yeah, and that was one of the things I had made a note to mention to you. So I would encourage you to get on the Williamson Inc. So it's Williamson Inc. is our organization. So it'd be williamsoninc.com. And if you go under the chamber calendar, it is loaded with stuff. And so you can just show up as an individual. So one of the things I would look at are the ribbon cuttings. So one of the things we do is we have chamber ambassadors. Okay. And so the ambassadors are notified anytime there's a ribbon cutting. So you show up to a ribbon cutting, not only are you going to literally be there the day they're opening, so it could be interesting, and a lot of it's small business, but we'll pull 40 to 50 people that are really there to, one, welcome the new company, but also to network. And so that's a very easy, free way to do it. I think you can work strategically with those. I was going to mention to you, we have an event on April 1 called Outlook Williamson. And basically it is what it sounds like. We have various speakers where we'll bring folks in and we're looking ahead. What's ahead for Williamson County? That event will draw somewhere between 300 and 400 people. So it's a lot of words to say. One of the things I think you could do really strategically, I don't know, honestly, I hope none of you are in these. If you're in the game of paying to network, cool. But I just don't know that it's necessary. And I've seen these groups gather. I think you can do it for free. And I think by working a good place to start would be the Williamson Inc. Chamber calendar and just show up to stuff. We have another event called Williamson 101 or Chamber 101. And it's primarily, again, for businesses that are new to town or they're trying to get engaged with the chamber. But after every one of those, so you got to hear a spiel about the chamber and all that. Okay. But what you're really working toward is the reception that's afterward. And people move right into that, and it's just networking galore. So I think between that and a little bit of LinkedIn, you could make a lot of hay in a hurry. That's a great question. Yeah. Chamber 101. Y'all are on it with the links. That's impressive.
That's Chris said. I was just going to say.
Goodness.
I'll have a document with all these links that we run the recording. So if you want all these links that Chris is putting on, email me. I'm on the volunteer page.
I was thinking about, I told you my buddy Gutter Glove, and I was thinking about his journey. And, you know, what I'm not confused by is like, you go, oh, yeah, you hear about all these companies that are hiring. But then I know people that are going through experience of applying for these jobs, and it's just not taken for whatever reason. So I understand, like, I might sit here and go, oh, all these people and all these jobs, and yet your experience might be different. And I will tell you, like, he actually did a LinkedIn post where he talked about all the gigs he did during the season until he got onto Gutter Glove. And ultimately, what it took is he knew a guy who knew a guy. And I'd love to be able to hear and tell you, like, oh, yeah, you know, like, just find the jobs. But you all know that that's not real. And so I think to the networking point, figuring out how do you find somebody that's willing to endorse you and get you out of the, you know, you submit your resume and your application. I had this happen to a guy the other day who was applying for a job at Mitsubishi. He applied, and I'm talking within minutes, it was no. Well, because the algorithm pulled it, you know, it pulled it out because he didn't have enough of the keywords, right? So I sent an email on his behalf, and I said, hey, like, I know this guy. I think it might be worth pulling out of the no bucket. We'll see what happens, but that's the stuff it's going to take. And so I think you'd be wise to, you find a company you're interested in, who in my network works there, how do I work these angles to get yourself in a position where you're not solely relying on the application goes through, the resume is looked at, because it's tough. So I don't want to miss that. I get that it's easy for us to go so many jobs, and experience might be a little different. I understand that. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, thanks
Hey.
for coming.
Oh,
I'm
my
Stephanie.
pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
So the algorithm is what's really tricky, because when you do the online applications, like you said, it puts you in the no bucket.
Right.
And it doesn't matter if you've glossed it up or you've got the impeccable job record or you're pivoting or whatever your case is,
Yeah.
you're thrown into that algorithm.
Right.
So, you know, I get out and I talk with people,
Yeah.
and they're trying to figure out ways to help, but there's limitations. So
Totally.
I'm in school right now. I'm
Okay.
getting my data analytics certificate
Cool.
in the graduate business program at Lipscomb.
Awesome.
And that's to retool my MBA that I earned 25 years ago. I am a stay-at-home mom transitioning back into the corporate world. So that's how I'm retooling myself to be
Yeah.
relevant.
Yeah.
So I've got skills.
Yeah.
And yet when I go in for even talking with the hiring managers, they're saying, oh, you don't have this, this, or this.
Right.
But yet I'm in school to obtain these skills. What would you recommend to a person like myself?
Gosh, that's a great question, and I commend you. I mean, that's a tough route, but good on you for going back, and that's awesome. Just as an aside, if you're not already leaning into the Alumni Association at Lipscomb, you should. Okay, so it could not just career services, but like the Alumni Associations. So my background, I mentioned, was in higher ed fundraising.
Okay.
And maybe even like University of Tennessee, where I went to undergrad, has a really robust career transitions group. So think about leaning into Lipscomb.
My MBA is from Tennessee.
Great. Oh,
And-
call Haslam and tell him call Big Jim. But
I'll just call them
but
up.
the business school at UTK, go look. Like, they have a whole section on re-entering the workforce. UTK Career Center has a re-entering the workforce thing. And so I look at that. To your question specifically, though, how do you explain this? I don't have any good answers. I mean, at the end of the day, like, you're going to need somebody who's in there who's willing to champion you. And then time and time again, because it's not, I got with the Gutter Glove guys, I sent an email and it went unanswered. And then I waited and I pinged them again. And so you just got to have a champion. You got to find a champion.
Fortunately, you're going to have to get in front of live people.
Yeah.
Right. The algorithm's never going to pick up yours. And you've got a good story.
Absolutely.
You're doing all the right thing. But yeah, the point is you're just going to have to find that sort of 6 degrees Kevin Bacon into the organizations that you're interested in.
Right.
And get somebody, like, hey, look, I've got these skills from 20 years ago and I'm refreshing my skills, I'm expanding them, I'm taking this, and here's what I'm really trying to do. And then that person then becomes your advocate, like, hey,
I've even had I've even had LBMC vet me and put me in front of hiring managers, and they still came back saying she's great, but we're going to pass.
Well,
And so, but so I'm now starting to get in front of people, but
Sure.
it's taking me this long.
Right.
And now I'm back to square one because they don't know what to do now that we've gotten to this juncture. And I mean, I've even networked with my UTK. I was actually one of the founding portfolio managers for the Torch Fund. I'm the one who had it named.
That's cool.
I'm the first female portfolio manager president for it.
Oh, that's cool.
So there were 2 guys, they recruited 4 of us. So a total of 6 of us. So I'm one of the founding, I'm the only female that helped to found the
Yeah.
thing, but yet I'm still being overlooked.
Yeah.
And so my struggle is getting in front of people for that opportunity. And once I can get that opportunity, I know my light will shine. It's just
No
I need to
doubt.
be given that opportunity, and it's networking. And the algorithms are bumping me out right and left, and I'm still plugging along. There was a committee over at Lipscomb that looked at my resume, and so they thought surely, and it's still the algorithms are bumping me out. So that's where my struggle is.
I'm sorry I don't have better counsel. I mean, I know a lot of institutions that are hiring great fundraisers. So if you want to punt on data analytics and go and be a fundraiser, I know plenty of institutions.
I've done it for the Brentwood High School marching band.
I mean, Vanderbilt's hiring all sorts of fundraisers. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think one thing I would say is I'm willing to hedge my bet that the larger employers are going to be more intrigued by your story. Like a Mars Pet Care would probably love the story of a stay-at-home mom turned data analyst. I think those larger, more global companies would probably be, I'm just guessing, would be more interested in hearing that story. And
Plus, I was a French major, so there's the.
So that's cool, right? So I think there's something to that, and they all have presence at these chamber events. Then you'll have to tap your way around, right? So I mean, it's more junior, but that's why these people show up, is to engage and to be helpful. They're really to a person. Like I say this, and I'm kind of a chamber homer, but truly, when you go to these things, like I haven't met too many folks that go like, I'm only here for me. There's really a spirit of collaboration, which is kind of cool, and frankly, anymore like a little surprising, right? And so I think leaning into some of these free events, you're going to meet somebody from an Outlook. It would be a great start. And if y'all want to go to that, email me. If you decide you want to go to Outlook, email me. And I'll tell you what. How many folks are on here? How many folks are on this call?
4 or 5.
Okay, cool.
I'm actually in there.
Oh, you are? All right, so don't count you. All right, so here's what I would say. For everybody that's in this space now and online, if you want to go to Outlook, email me. I'll get you a comp ticket. Okay, so he's got, my email is just Nathan at Williamson Chamber, Nathan at Williamson Chamber. So just reference that we met tonight, and I'll make it so that you can be there. It's a morning deal. It's several hours, like at 8 to 11. If you decide you want to do that, hit me up, and I'm happy to get you a comp ticket for that.
Yeah, WilliamsonChamber.org.
WilliamsonChamber.com. Nathan at WilliamsonChamber.com. But that'd be a great start. And there's gonna be somebody from all these spots. Yeah. Other questions?
Yeah, so the
Outlook?
Inc. 5000.
Oh, yes.
So that has, you don't have to have a subscription. We can go to the website, we can get all the companies that we like, and it'll have a decision maker.
Well, no. Sorry. So the Inc. 5000 website will just be the list, the comprehensive list of the 5,000 fastest growing companies in the country for that year. So if you have interest in someone who's made that list, then there's going to be some intel there. Then you got to go to LinkedIn and kind of reverse engineer.
And then hopefully find some people that we
That's
know.
right. That's right. So let's use Monogram Health as an example. You see they're the second fastest growing company in the country. Now you're going to LinkedIn and you're looking to see who do you potentially know at Monogram Health, or you just reach out to. I do a lot of cold reach outs anymore too, these companies, because I want to go sit with them and hear about growth. So I'll send a note to an executive or somebody, and I basically put in the connection piece, there's a little little message. You get like
300 characters.
whatever. There you go.
That's what you're referring to.
Yes,
right?
sir. And I'll just say, hey, and again, I understand I'm coming at it from a little bit of a different angle. I say I'm in the business of helping companies grow. I'd love to talk to you. Can I have an email address?
Sure.
And I got, like, again, I understand that I'm coming with goodies, so they're going to respond.
Sure.
But I think you could, but yes, Inc. 5000.
Well, I can take them goodies too. If
You can do goodies. Tell them you got, tell me you have resources, and then they can, you can decide what those are. But it's the list of fastest growing companies, and you can search it by state, and you can search it by city.
Okay, so you'd say recommend do the 300 character message. Don't attach, just say I'd like to talk or.
Absolutely.
you know.
I'm really interested in what you're doing. I think I can be helpful or something like that. May I have an email?
Yeah, that's why they keep it to 300.
Right.
And I tell you, that's hard because I'm a verbose person.
Yeah. And I'll say too, when I'm
That's
when I'm
what
doing
Chat
recruiting,
GPT's
so
all about.
if we're doing recruiting, and we do really focused recruiting on companies that we think make sense for Williamson County, I'll just tell you. And I used to work at I did a stint at Emma Email Marketing. If you remember Emma, and so I learned a lot of tricks there. So one of which was I don't ever send an email on Monday or Friday, and typically I'll load up my emails for about 9 a.m. on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday morning.
Somebody said that.
Right. And so I focus on that. And then so if I reach out to somebody who, say, I think you'd be a great fit here, I don't get anything, I would just keep stacking my email on. I'll do a kind of a and so they've got that whole run of communication versus starting a new email. So they've got that whole kind of history, I guess. But Mondays and Fridays, put it down because nobody's doing anything.
People are always trying to sell me something.
Yeah.
And it'll be like, I don't need it. I don't have time. Oh, yeah. And you're top of the deck.
Yep. Yep.
So.
What about the universities you mentioned? I'm University of Georgia, Georgia State, grad school. Do they all have like career?
They all should.
Would they be dealing with old people?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. So
or do they care about us?
No, they do, because you're an alumnus, and so whether or not they've got a built out program depends. But Tennessee has really gone all in on it, and you can get on there and put your resume on there. They've got career coaches, like that's their job. I don't know if they have this person anymore. They had Tennessee had a staff member in alumni relations that was the career person.
Right.
So if you went to Georgia, Georgia's absolutely going to have something. Some of these smaller institutions, probably not, but absolutely go and see what your alma maters, plural, are doing.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. So where you're looking is alumni relations and career services. And you could call, if you don't see anything, call the alumni center and just ask them straight up, what kind of resources you have for alums, real wealthy alums that are thinking about making big major gifts. I got a planned gift I'm thinking about booking, but before I had to get to that.
Well, in the past, I'd call them, ask.
Exactly. You tell them you got an estate gift and they'll,
Well, it didn't give me season tickets, so I don't know if it'll give me a job either.
Funny. A good question.
Does anybody have a question? I'll pass this on.
Any of our friends online have any questions?
Just something to add. I've had some experiences with Vaco, and just for the room and anyone in need, they're really great in terms of being a job seeker. At one point, I haven't engaged with them in a while, but typically, even if you're not applying to a specific job posting, the recruiters are really great about getting to know you. And many of them, in my experience, really want to place you with one of their clients, and it's free. So looping this back around to networking, it may be a good idea just to reach out to Vaco and just see if you can get a conversation with a recruiter, because many of them have a lot of knowledge about the local job market as well. And of course, specifically related to what you might be looking for. I just wanted to share that.
Cool. And like I said, if you want to come to Outlook, email me. If you end up seeing something that you're interested in Williamson County and you would like some insight into it, use the same email address. I'm happy to tell you what I know, and to be of service any way that I can. But yeah, that's what I got for you. It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Awesome.
Cool.
Thanks again, Nathan.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. Thanks for
Great.
having me. Sweet.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, bud.
All right. We will see everybody back here